Let's see here. Eye of Newt, human ear, and rain cloud. Rain cloud? That can't be right. Let's try another one. Human skull, spider web, and bolt of lightning. Bolt of lightning? That's imponderable. You know, maybe I need some help reading this book. Maybe I'll turn it into a game called Do Balai this week on Board Games with Scott. Hello there! Welcome to Board Games with Scott. This week I'm going to be looking at the game Do Balai, published by Asmodee Games. This game... Excuse me. This game is a simultaneous puzzle game. If you've not seen those before, it's one of these games where there's a puzzle and everyone's trying to work on the puzzle at the same time. And the first person to solve the puzzle will get to advance in the game. So some of you may have already decided this is not the game for you. You need to think very quickly in order to make it through Do Balai. Now, this is a game about wizardry and casting spells and trying to figure out the ingredients for spells more quickly than your fellow players. But one of the things that draws people's attention right away is the box. This is the box. It looks like a book. It's got a nice little rounded corner here, and a top and a bottom like books, and a neat little latch that opens up to get to the components inside. So what do you get with Do Balai? Well, you get this great book, as I've already talked about, and it's important in that it's got a compartment on either side and a fairly sturdy page here that can be flipped either way, and that's going to come in play during the game. It comes with a number of big, chunky wooden dice. Now, these dice, when they come, have symbols printed on them, but one of the things the game comes with is a sheet of stickers. And they suggest that you put the stickers on the symbols, and I found out why. After a few plays, the printing actually began to wear off some of the faces of the dice. So I would suggest you put the stickers on if you get this game. It comes with a board that shows sort of the wild and crazy path that the wizards and the witches take. It really isn't anything more than a scoring track, and one of the annoyances about the board is while it is cute that it goes all whippoorwill and everywhere, I found it frustrating at times to follow the numbers to figure out the next one because the track doubles back upon itself a number of times. But it's still cute. It's something fun to look at. There's a number of these little playing pawns. Each player gets one of these. Each player also gets a set of cards, these small cards, and these are important. These cards match the symbols on the dice. You're going to be using those cards during play. And then there are some lavishly illustrated special cards you can get during play. Now, this is a French game, and all these components are in French. The only French you need to read to be able to play the game are these cards. And if you can't read French, like me, then you can go online, you can print a little translation sheet to make sure everyone has a translation sheet to figure out what cards they have. Thankfully, the cards don't come into play very often, and so it's not a hassle to look up the card that you've got because you're only going to get a couple cards during the whole game, and that's even if you're lucky. There's a rule book, and it's also in French. Again, you can print out an English rule translation over on Board Game Geek. So those are the components. They all fit nicely in the box, which has a nice latch to keep it closed. But how does it all work together? Let's find out now in the flow of play. First, I'm going to talk about the main thing you do during the game. What you're trying to do in the game is you're trying to figure out spells. The way the game will happen is we're going to roll these dice, and then you're going to look and try and figure out, based upon what was rolled, what the orange spell or what the black spell is. You're not trying to figure out both, one or the other. Everyone's going to be doing this at the same time. Now, the way that you do this is you have to look at the dice, and anywhere that you see the same symbol used, you take those dice out. So we rolled an orange and a black spider web, so those don't count in either spell. We also rolled an orange and a black Shazam, so those don't count for either type of spell. We also rolled an orange and a black rain cloud. This is what's left. We have a black spider, and we have an orange ear and an orange skull. So for this round, the correct black spell is spider. The correct orange spell is ear and skull. Now, if I'd happen to roll 2 spider webs in orange, that die doesn't have a spider web, neither does that. There we go. if I'd rolled 2 spider webs in orange and 1 in black, they're all canceled out. So if you have the same symbol in both colors, you take out all the dice that have that symbol, and then you look at whatever's left. So let's do an example here and see if you can figure out the spells. Did you figure it out? This one's pretty easy. First, we cancel out any dice that have the same symbol. So I see we have a black eye and an orange eye. So those are gone. And I see we have a black lightning bolt and an orange lightning bolt. So those are gone. So there is no black spell. The orange spell is spiderweb, rain cloud, star, skull, spiderweb. Now, since these are the same thing, you only count spiderweb once. So it doesn't really matter. That's the correct orange spell, these 4 dice. Now what makes it interesting is that after you roll the dice, at any point, any player can grab this little sheet and flip it over, hiding the dice. So let's try it again, shall we? The other thing to know is when you're playing, you're only going to need to figure out one or the other spell, and you choose which one you want to figure out. So if the black spell looks easier, you could go for that. Now in that last roll, there was no black spell. But let's try it again. Now try and pick out a color and figure out the spell for that color before I close the book. Ready? Go! How'd you do? That's how the game plays. Any player can reach up and flip the cover. And once they flip the cover, you then grumble at them and say bad words, and then you have to look at your cards and you pick out the cards that you think match one of the spells that were available. And you can put out 1 card, 2 cards, as many as you want. The more cards you put out, the greater risk you take, but the greater reward you will get if you are correct. So let's see what the spells were that time. So I see we have eyeballs in orange and black, so those are gone. We have, there's another eyeball, we take that out. There's stars in orange and black, so those are gone. We have, so here are the spells. Those are the same, so it doesn't matter. Black ear is one correct spell, and orange lightning bolt and orange spider is the other correct spell. So that's the black spell and that's the orange spell. So if you picked either ear, and you only put out the ear card, and everyone picks it and puts it face down, then you flip them over, that would be a correct match, a perfect match to black. For the orange, it would be lightning bolt and spider. That would be a perfect match in orange, but you could just put out one or the other of the cards, and you'd still get something for it. So that's the first part of each round. You roll the dice, someone flips the book, anyone flips it whenever they think they're ready, everyone grumbles, you pick out the best spell you have and display it. Then you open up the book and you see how you did. So the way that corresponds to moving on the board is you get to go ahead 1 space for every card you played that was correct. So if you just played 1 card and it was right, you go ahead 1 space. If you played 2 cards that were right, you go ahead 2 spaces. You're only going to play the cards for either the orange spell or the black spell, but not both. So if all the cards you played are either from the orange spell or from the black spell, then you get to move ahead 1 space for every card you played. The more cards you play, the further ahead you might be able to go, but the greater risk you take. If any card you played is wrong, so if you have some cards that are right and some cards that are wrong, then you don't move at all. If I'd played this card, then I would go ahead 1 space because I matched the black. There's something else that would happen because I completely matched the black spell, but I'll talk about that later. If I played these 2 cards, then I played some right cards and some wrong cards. Lightning bolt is a correct card, skull is a wrong card. If you make a mix of correct and wrong cards, then you don't move at all. If you manage to play cards from both spell colors, you can't do that. Basically, you have to say, I was trying to match the black spell or the orange spell. Either way, you have an incorrect card. If you're trying to match the orange spell, the ear is wrong. If you're trying to match the black spell, the lightning bolt is wrong. So you're considered to have correct and incorrect cards. If your guess is completely wrong, then you have a penalty of moving back 1 space per card played, up to a maximum of 2. If you are the person that closed the book and your guess is completely wrong, you get an additional penalty of another 2 spaces back. By the way, one house rule that we play with, I call it the Don Stop Being a Jerk rule, is that if you are the person to close the book, you must play a card. That's to prevent someone from just being a jerk, closing the book as soon as the dice are rolled, and then not playing a card at all to not take a risk. You don't have to play cards normally. There might be a case where there is no spell, if all the dice cancel each other out. But so our house rule is that if you flip the book, you have to play a card. If no one flips the book page and everyone decides there's no spell, then you just roll the dice again. So that's a house rule that I play to prevent someone from just being a twerp. Now, if you manage to match a spell completely, if you match the black spell completely, then you get one of the bonus cards that I mentioned earlier. These are the special cards. They allow you to do different things like get extra time to look at the book, to adjust your spell after you see the dice, or to get some bonus spaces at the end of the game. If you manage to match the orange spell correctly, you get to move ahead an additional 2 spaces after you move. So that may be one of your strategies as far as which spell you're going to try and match. If you want those cards, you'll try for the black spell. If you want to go further on the board, you'll try for the orange spell. Until 3 players cross the finish line. At that point, the first player to cross the finish line gets 25 points, the second player gets 24 points, the third player gets 23 points. And then you get to add in your bonuses from those black spell cards. Some of those can give you an additional 1, 2, or 3 points. So those cards can make the difference. You still have to finish in the top 3 positions to be considered. But then if you manage to get some of those black cards, you can sneak a win. By the way, the game has one trick up its sleeve, and that's the curse. The player who is in the lead is cursed and has this token, and the lead player may not get a bonus for completely matching a spell. So if the lead player happens to match the black spell completely, they get no card. If they match the orange spell completely, they do not get 2 bonus points. As soon as another player passes them, then that player takes the new lead player token and then is faced with the curse. And this is a feature I quite like, although boy, it can be frustrating when you're in the lead and someone else just keeps tying you, and they don't take this from you till they actually pass you. Arrgh. So you ready to try one more time before we go to our conclusion? All right, here we go. Ready? You're going to play against me now. I'm going to try my best. And go! All right, go. Pick up your cards. Oh, wait, you don't have cards. I've got cards. I'll pick up my cards. So everyone pick out your cards. Put them out in front of you. Everyone ready? And flip. I said spider lightning bolt. That's my guess. What's yours? All right, let's see how you did. Oh, everyone groans now. So we see the stars. These stars are all gone. We see the ears. Gone. We see the cloud is there. And spider lightning bolt. So the correct spell for black is rain cloud. The correct spell for orange is spider lightning bolt. Huzzah! I get to go ahead a bonus 2 spaces, so I get to go ahead a total of 4 spaces. If you picked just rain cloud as your play, then you would go ahead 1 space, plus you'd get an extra card, one of those special black power cards. If you picked something like this, then we'd say, whoops, you're silly, you don't get to move. And if you picked just this, we'd say, wow, that's completely wrong. You go back 1 because you played the card. And if you were the one that flipped the book, you'd go back an extra 2. And that's what there is to do Balai. So what do I think of Do Balai? I quite like this game of spells and flying about. It's a clever game. I like simultaneous puzzle games. I enjoy trying to solve a puzzle very quickly. And so I'm attracted to this kind of game. You probably now have heard enough to make a decision for yourself. If you do like simultaneous puzzle games, I give this game an A. It's got some nice features. I really like the ability that the player in the lead is hampered. That's very nice. That's very clever, and I wish more games had that. It might help to balance games out a little bit and make everyone feel like they're involved a bit more. I understand some people don't like that ability. They say if you're winning, you should be able to win. And if you don't like it, just leave it out. It's not going to hurt anything. It's a game that you could play with kids or adults. The sort of self-paced timer in the game. Keeps things interesting. So you're not going to spend too much time trying to puzzle that out before someone flips the book. It's a game where you can balance risk, you can take a chance, or you can play it safe, and I like that. I really like this game. I think it's well balanced. With that, I will thank you for coming to this week's episode of Board Games with Scott. For more, go on over to BoardGamesWithScott.com. But now, if you'll excuse me, I have some spells to figure out. Alright, now was that Shazam, Lightning Bolt, Rain Cloud, or Shazam, Lightning Bolt, Human Eye? Here are the playing pieces for the game. They've all got pictures of different sorts of witches and warlocks. And for some reason, I can't figure it out. The guys in my group keep going for red.